Have you ever felt like you were in a relationship with someone that felt so familiar to previous ones? Like, no matter how different the person may seem, how they look, how you guys met, things like that, you somehow end up in the same cycle, the same heartache, the same arguments, the same mistake. Well, guess what? Yes, that was me. Twice that I can acknowledge. Two long-term relationships, and in hindsight, I felt like I was dating the same person in different bodies. And honestly, the deeper truth was that I wasn't just dating them. I was honestly dating and redating my wounds. And the common denominator is moi. And if I can track back to one thing, especially what I've learned in therapy thus far, it was my attachment style. So, if you've been in a loop of unhealthy relationships, struggling to trust, overgiving, people pleasing, or feeling like love always ends in pain, this episode is for you. Because today I want to break down how I finally found that pattern, understood my attachment styles, and what I did now to move towards a secure love. As I've been doing the work and I feel like I gained some wisdom. I know I'm not old, but I'm here to share with you what I've learned so you don't have to learn this the hard way. Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk, Let's Talk. So, this episode, I am diving a little bit deeper, more into my personal life. And before we get into my story, I think it's important for me to break down what are attachment styles. You may have heard of it, seen it online, or read the book Attached, but attachment styles are the way we form relationships and bonds and how they are shaped by our childhood. And it also helps us define how we connect with love as adults. And mainly they are shaped by our parents. So there's four that I am aware of. I don't know if there's any other ones, so I'll briefly go over. Secure attachment, everyone's goal is to strive for trusting, emotionally available, comfortable with intimacy. There is the anxious of who is an overgiver, overseeker, overpleaser, in need of constant reassurance. And avoidant, I would say, is fear of intimacy. They value independence, but to the point that they're emotionally distant. And fearful, avoidant, which is also called disorganized attachment. It's like a mixture between the two. You're craving closeness and deep connection, but you also fear it at the same time. And for me, I would say I was anxiously attached, always on high alert, always felt like love would leave me, and that was exactly what I kept attracting. And this is where I address the elephant in the room. Before I share my story, I want to say there's no disrespect to any of the men that I've been with, especially not my last relationship. He absolutely was the love of my life. But I know heartbreak affects all of us, and for the longest time, I didn't know I was attracting men that mimicked my father. The inconsistency, the in and out presence, the emotional unavailability. I would do everything in my power to make these relationships work, even to my detriment, just as like I was a little girl hoping for my father not to leave me either. And ultimately, I was afraid to walk away. And the one pattern that I noticed in every relationship was that I never ended it on my own terms. It was always, always, always on someone else's accord. It was never my choice, never my doing. And I think that's what hurt even more, because it wasn't just about them. I felt like it triggered something much deeper. My father, was in and out of my life like a revolving door. And not because he didn't love me, but there were reasons that were outside of me. But as a kid, I was a sponge. I absorbed everything and I internalized everything as his absence as something that I needed to fix. And fast forward to my adulthood, I was unconsciously choosing relationships with people that were unavailable partners or emotionally inconsistent with their love. And every time I was doing that thing that I did as a child, I will try to prove myself worthy so they can stay. When I look back on my relationships, I can now see how much they mirrored that pain. I thought I was just falling in love, or this is what love felt like, but I was actually repeating my wounds. And the worst part, I felt like it brought the worst out of me. But even though I can't erase my past, I've done and I will continue doing the inner work. And the truth is that inner work will always be continued. I can't just erase what happened, but I can be more conscious of my thoughts and my behaviors and the way I move now. And that awareness has changed everything. So, how did I go from anxious attachment, other wounds, and unhealthy relationships into stepping into something more secure? These 5 tips are things that I've learned thus far, and probably will learn more along the way. And one is stop romanticizing pain. Love isn't supposed to be endurance. I used to think though, if I love harder, if I gave harder, and I gave more of myself, I would be chosen. And love shouldn't feel like that. Love should feel safe for you. And secondly, I learned to reparent myself. I can't erase the past, but I can reparent my inner child. The love that I didn't receive as a child, I learned to give myself that today. And I officially stopped waiting for a partner to fill the void that my father didn't fill. I began to affirm that I am enough and I don't have to chase love. Love will find me in my wholeness, and I am worthy of a secure and healthy love. And third, I paid very close attention to my nervous system. Anxious attachment isn't just a mind thing, it's a full body thing as well. And my anxiety I felt when the partner pulled away wasn't about them, it was a way that my body will go into survival mode because of my past wounds. So, breath work, EFT tapping, and somatic healing has helped me not stay in that fear zone. And 4, I learned to walk away from familiar pain. Just because it feels familiar doesn't mean that it's right for you. I stopped myself from making or masking anxiety as chemistry. If I felt like I had to fight and win for someone's love, that was my cue to go. Last but certainly not least, I built secure relationships in every area of my life. Before I could find secure love in a partner, I had to find and become secure in myself and in my familiar relationships and even my friendships. I will purposely surround myself with people who will love me unconditionally and love me without conditions. People who didn't make me have to prove my worth to them. Now I see love completely different. And the woman I am today, she will never accept the things that she tolerated. Not because she's cold, jaded, or guarded. If you know me personally, you know I'm not like that. But it's because I am aware and I know my worth. And now, even though I'm single, I see relationships now in such a new lens, and I trust that whatever comes next in my life It's not the repeat of my past because I've broken that cycle. And to anyone out there who's stuck in the same cycle, dating the same versions of the same people, or feel like love is something that you have to earn, I see you. Break that cycle, heal those wounds, and trust that secure love is meant for you, because when you change your thoughts, it changes everything. And before I close, I want to clarify something that's important. It's never about looking back, but it's about never going back to what broke me. Because here's the thing, I've dated avoidant partners, and if you know anything about attachment styles or if you're familiar with it, when an anxious partner mixed with someone who's avoidant, my gosh, it's like gasoline and fire. One person craves closeness while the other person craves distance. And that push and pull dynamic, both people feel misunderstood. I know firsthand because I've lived it. I was anxiously attached, and some of my partners were quote unquote avoidant. And while without a shadow of a doubt, some of them loved me wholeheartedly, our attachment wounds ultimately what pulled us apart. I also believe that you don't have to just write people off because it didn't work before. Because the truth is, when two people do the work, when two people are working on themselves and in the relationship, when two people are ultimately healing or working towards their healing, I feel like the relationship that was before can ultimately change into something completely different. So, no, I'm not looking to relive my old story, but I also know that if love comes back around, that is healthy, secure, and feels like home and is intentional, could be open to seeing how things are different. And that's the biggest thing between my old me and my evolved, healed me. Side note, me and my father have the most beautiful relationship now. I have to always remember that he was human too. He walked this earth the first time just like I did. And although I know some things have affected or warped my view of myself and others, I know he did the best he could with what he knew and loved me the best he could at the time. And that is something that I will never take for granted. I will never discredit the love that my father has given me. I will never discredit the efforts that he put towards our relationship now. The fact that he has understood what transpired and how it affected me, seeking forgiveness, seeking forgiving myself for responding in certain ways, has cultivated such a healthy reciprocal love. Although I thought, hey, if I mend my relationship with my father, everything changes. But it doesn't. That's just part of the puzzle. You need to make sure that you're working within so you don't show up as that little girl as an adult when it comes to relationships. And even if I talked about that in therapy or address that and, like I said, have a beautiful relationship that we have today, it doesn't change how I am continuously showing up. And if you made it this far in this episode, and if this episode resonates with you at all, share your biggest takeaways down below. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. You can hit the bell icon. And until next time, take care of yourself and remember, love doesn't have to hurt. Keep healing and know that you're always enough. Never forget that. Until next time, y'all, as we dive deeper, let's talk. Bye.